All right, let's do some real talk on cold calling, prospecting, and general lead generation where you're talking to people cold. You're talking to a stranger, right? You're initiating a conversation, a cold call, door knock, in person meeting, somebody on the street, anything of that sort. Let's break it down. Number one is this game, if we're going to call it a game, is a high skill threshold, meaning if you suck at it, if you're not good at it, you will be broke and you will not make any money. However, if you're in that top percentage, that top echelon, you will make a fortune. And we'll start like this. I'm tired of hearing the excuses. Instead of saying, oh, that doesn't work, that's old school. Oh, that's not for me. That doesn't fit my personality type. Oh, no one's going to take me serious. Stop with the bullshit, man. Tell the truth. You're too scared to do it. You're unwilling to put in the work. You don't want to spend the time, money, and effort to get good at it. You want to give in to your excuses. Oh, I'm an introvert. You want to blame it on you basically want to not take accountability and responsibility. So let's call it like that because it works. I've made a fortune with it. I continue to. My students do. My team does. Everything we do is based in old school traditional prospecting. We're thriving. We're setting records now in 2025 in sales while other people are struggling. Stop. Why? Because this is a mental disease. When you keep kicking the can down the road and not taking responsibility, nothing changes. If you don't fix this in regards to prospecting, cold calling, and that kind of stuff, you're never going to get ahead. Nothing's ever going to change for you. Ever. So I'm going to keep reiterating this because without this, nothing works after that. You're either going to take the path of least resistance, which is what most people do, and they avoid the lead generation, prospecting, cold calling, door knocking, because again, it's hard work. Because at the end of the day, it is hard work. It's not hard manual labor physically, but here it tests you mentally. And if you're not strong and working and developing your mindset and your mentality on a daily basis, you're not going to do well. And that's just the reality. But we need to call it like it is. If you're scared, admit it in the comment section. I'm scared. I know I don't have the skill. I'm deathly afraid socially, so approaching strangers scares me, and I don't have the skill set. That's fine. Admit that and start with that. When you start with that, then we can do something about it because then you're taking responsibility and accepting it for what it is. Then we can move on. But until then, we're looking at a symptom of the real problem, and that's what most people do in every area of life, and why they're always perpetually stuck, or they see a little bit of change and then they default back to that mode. They're, instead of attacking the problem, they're attacking a symptom of the problem, and that's what holds them back. All right, that's number one. Number two, I mentioned in the very beginning that the threshold for this thing is crazy. It's like you could not get any results, and all of a sudden, as your skill starts improving, boom, it's like you open up the floodgates. And that's how it's going to be when you're doing cold calling, door knocking, and all that. When I started, I was terrible. And you're not going to be good when you start either. And that's okay. Even if you consider yourself gift of the gab, natural, right? Which you need to leave that shit at home because none of that stuff matters. Sales isn't about having the gift of the gab and being a talker. Sales has nothing to do with that. You're asking questions, you're leading a conversation, you're looking to persuade and influence people, not be a talker, right? Those are two completely separate things. Although the person who claims to have the gift of the gab may generally be more comfortable doing this stuff, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect anything. So that's that. But that skill threshold, meaning in the beginning, you're going to go through a lot of reps, a lot of pain, emotional anguish. You're not going to get results. It's going to be difficult for you to generate leads and get appointments, but eventually you hit this tipping point. And when you hit that tipping point, suddenly the results start flooding in, or you'll go nothing, 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 and then boom, you'll get a transaction, a couple deals, a couple sales, and that's okay. But most people look at that pain period in the beginning and they just think, oh, this is not working. No, you just don't have the skill yet. Because if I go out there and I take you with me and you were to watch me door to door or listen to me cold call, very quickly you would notice a difference between me and you. Or if I listen to you, right? And I've seen this live where I'm going out door knocking with somebody, which I've done a million times. The moment that the person opens the door and interacts with the new guy, it's a certain way. Then the moment that I initiate conversation with the person or I start interacting with them, you see an immediate shift. When that interaction ends, I say, did you notice that right when I started talking and engaging with that customer, everything shifted to like, oh yeah, it was like night and day. They were suddenly open to you, a lot more comfortable. Exactly. That's what you need to note. What happened? And then I have them start breaking down how I was standing, the quality of my voice, my physiology, the tonality that I was using. And I have them start identifying specifically what it was that I was doing that was allowing me to have that effect on those people, to get them to listen to me and engage with me. Because that's the difference right there, right? They would notice it and say, oh, okay. Then it became clear to them and they had the awareness now and they've identified, this is where I'm at. This is where I need to be. Got it. And they would specifically start working at it. But that made it real as to why they weren't getting the results. And this is why it's so important you guys have the right people coaching you and training you when it comes to sales and communication, because you're not going to figure it out on your own. Nobody does. Even if you go out there trial by fire by yourself, sure, you'll start to get results and get better. But that gap, man, is a lot wider than you think. And there's because this is the key. There's so much going on that you're unaware of, that until somebody who's a higher skill set and experience than you specifically points it out, you won't know. And in many cases, that same error can keep happening and either fail you out of your current sales career or become such a problem that it holds you back from making real progress because nobody pointed it out to you. And that could hold you back for years. Year one, let's say you make 50 grand and you do pretty good. Had you had a coach, you probably would have made 100 or 150 or more. Right? Any person who's the top dog in anything that they do has trainers and coaches and all that stuff. And I'm reiterating this here because there may be a lot of newer or rookie to intermediate people listening to this. You need to understand it. I get it. Everyone's like, oh, well, all the coaches are a scam. I understand. However, you can't argue what I said with a real legitimate person helping you in basketball, a voice coach, right? Sales or whatever it is. If they're worth their money and they're good at what they do, which I know for a fact I am because I've churned out thousands of students at this point, it works, right? But I did the same thing when I started. And everything that I did, I always got help. And my basketball career, going all the way from being a beginner to professional, to my sales, real estate, business career, entrepreneurship, financial advisors, all that stuff. You need to do the same thing. If, again, you want to be good. But remember what I said earlier, that threshold is there. When you start hitting that upper percentile, it's incredible the results that you'll get. Your ability to create money literally out of thin air will blow your mind, because sales is one of those things that's only secondary in income potential to like actors and famous athletes. I swear. The ability that you have, especially with commission sales, to make an extraordinarily high income will blow your mind when you achieve that skill. But it takes time and dedication. Okay? Number two is take it a step at a time. Before you guys get to intermediate and advanced things when it comes to sales and prospecting and persuasion, you need to master the beginning, right? I don't care what industry you're in. Let's say you come into it and you're given a set of scripts. After about a month or 2 months, you should have every single script. Like I'll use myself as an example, my real estate scripts, right? I have a manual of like 100 pages. The first probably 10 to 20 pages is actual scripts, and then the other 80 is advanced stuff, objection handling. That's my Team BC University script book, right? Those first 10 to 20 pages, which are the different lead sources in the script that you use, you need to have that memorized inside and out before you ever think about adding something, doing your own style, doing advanced stuff, using my indirect sales manual that I created that adds on to it, right? I make people memorize it, meaning you have it so mastered that if I say, hey, what's line 5 on script number 3? Boom, you let me know. Until that's established, you can't add on to it because your foundation is weak. You're on quicksand. Until you know exactly what it is that you're going to say, you will always be self-conscious in sales, meaning you're going to be in your head instead of fully aware of your client, listening on the phone or in person, and 100% engaged with them. And that will always limit you as a salesperson. But I know people who have been in the sales industry 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and they still don't know their scripts verbatim. You're not going to make it your own, change it, and get more advanced until you know that. But everybody wants to skip that because I want to scale to 7 figures and all the other bullshit that they're shoving down your throat when you don't even know the beginning. It's like, hey, I want to do all these crazy moves in basketball, but I can't even dribble the ball consistently or even dribble with my weak hand, right? If you're right-handed, you can't even dribble left-handed. How are we going to teach you tricks and spin moves and through the legs and behind the back if you can't even dribble the ball? Why are we in such a rush? Yes, it's boring. Yes, it's monotonous, but that's what builds that foundation that turns you into a superstar. And that's what I did. That's why when I went to events and coaching events and all that stuff, and they asked, hey, anybody want to role play this or do the presentation? I was like, me. And I'd go up there and like a beast, everyone's just sitting in awe because I know every single word from the script. It wasn't because I was talented or special. It was because I spent minimum 10, 15 minutes every day reciting it, writing it down, and just reiterating it. After a month, I knew all the scripts inside and out. If you refuse to do that, you don't have what it takes and you're not willing to commit to the hard work to be really, really good at communication and sales. Because again, if you want that baseline confidence as a rookie salesperson, it comes with that. It comes with the competence of knowing, I know what to say. That's why you have to take the time to memorize your basic objection handlers, whatever industry you're in, and your basic scripts, whichever ones you're given. Forget about this script is better, forget that. The ones that you're given from your coach or the people teaching you, you learn that first, right? I have a bunch of free resources in the description if you need them, by the way. So that's how it starts. That's how it starts. Once you do that, then you can start adding and getting better. But we need that. That'll give you the basic foundation. That'll give you a structure to build off of. Then now we can start advancing you and getting you better. But 95% of people never even establish that baseline because they never build the foundation. You got to crawl before you walk, like they say. Then you got to walk before you run. And people are trying to run before they know how to crawl. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? So let's continue. That's piece number one. As you start to build on that foundation, the next piece is you need to become infatuated with the deeper understandings of communication. Everybody knows all the basic stuff about sales. It's been parroted, and everything is surface level for the most part on YouTube and even in a lot of people's courses. It's very surface level. The one feedback I get from my students, among many, but one for sure, is you go so much deeper in all this stuff than everybody else. And that's going to be my message to you. You need to take it deeper. This is why I've studied and been certified in neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, conversational hypnosis, body language, evolutionary psychology, behavioral psychology, and all that stuff. I know how the human being thinks, operates, how they process the world, how they speak, how they express themselves, when they demonstrate certain emotions. I've studied that stuff. That stuff isn't in the ether that we don't know. We know that it's been codified, all those things. And when you master that and understand it, you can predict behavior. You can know exactly what somebody's going to say. I know if I say or do something this way, that's going to be the response. That's what gives you the ultimate control. But you got to take it to that level to study and learn these things at that level in order to be able to do that. I know human beings. I know what people are going to do before they do. I know how to approach people. I know the right distance. I know how to, skew my body language to make them more receptive. If they're upset, I know how to take those emotions and move them. Anybody can learn that. I'm not special. I'm not so much more intelligent than other people. I've just studied it and geeked out on it. Because remember what I said, you got to dedicate yourself. That's what I'm talking about. And when you do that, you'll have a skill set and you'll automatically have that unique value proposition that many of you are looking for, but you'll be in a different stratosphere when it comes to interacting with people. And when you do that, all this stuff becomes easy. Generating leads is easy. Making connections is easy. Making sales is easy. Getting appointments, getting contracts signed becomes easy. That's the one thing that you can control. Then you can go out there and become a lead generation machine, because now all you need to do is interact with people and you're going to get opportunities. But it's difficult because we have the initial misunderstanding of it. We have the nervousness and fear of dealing with people. And this, by the way, in my eyes, is the number one form of personal development and self-help for people. It's to go out there and interact with the world. Because when you do that, you have to put all your personal insecurities front and center. And if you're willing to do that, you're going to be a rock star. You're going to be confident. You're going to be happier, more fulfilled. You're going to feel like you have more control in your life. You're going to be able to generate a lot of income. And this is the key. You'll be invaluable in the marketplace. I know I'm always going to make a shit ton of money because I know I can sell. I can sell people on joining my team. I can sell people on joining my coaching program. I can sell clients on hiring me to help them buy or sell a house. I can sell on other agents trusting me and my company when they send referrals and vice versa, right? I know I can get people to listen to me. I know I can sell people online. There's people who watch me on YouTube who have paid me tens of thousands of dollars and I've never met them. I can sell. I have people who are great friends that I've met online, people who work on my team, people who have dedicated themselves to Team BC in my organizations, all because I become a better communicator than other people. Sure, it's a lot in what I stand for and my values, absolutely. But if I cannot communicate it, if I cannot communicate my vision, my ideas, and all these things, how am I going to do anything? How many of you struggle because you can't communicate with the opposite sex? How many of you struggle because you want to be able to communicate better with your significant other, right? Or your kids or your family or whatever it is. Or you can't communicate your thoughts properly to people for them to understand you and you feel alone and misunderstood. It all comes down to communication. But let's get real. It's not easy by design. However, if you decide to master it and dedicate yourself, you will be an absolute beast. Check out the free resources in the description. Anything else you want me to describe, drop a comment here if you want me to elaborate on anything more. Drop a comment for the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, peace.